My name is Jay Waterbury, and I was president of OACP from 2009 and 2010. I was chief of police in the Dalles, Oregon for 20 years, and I worked there for 42 years before retiring.
I'm Mike Healy. I was president of the association from April 2001 to April of 2002.
2009 was said to be one of the worst recessions since the Great Depression, and so we were supposedly coming out of that, even though Chrysler had gone belly up, and I believe Ford was headed that way also. One thing that OACP was faced with was DPSST had stopped giving training for supervisory and mid-management classes, and they claimed they had lost funding. So OACP, Sheriff's Office, or the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, and DPSST and OSP got together, and we put together some training for supervisors and mid-managers just to kind of keep us through the time. And that was a big deal. If you have supervisors out there that haven't been trained, then you're opening yourself up for lawsuit. But I think OACP was the main force behind getting that training going, and we continue that through today. How did I personally grow with leadership skills during my time? And I can answer that very quickly, and that is just by I learned to listen more than jacking my jaws all the time. I like to talk, but I also realize that when my jaws are moving, my ears aren't listening.
When I was president, actually my first meeting that I had as president at Canada, we signed and passed the documents finalizing the Oregon Accreditation Alliance. So we actually implemented it that first meeting, and later on Kevin and I worked out a contract with Rod Brown as our first executive director of the Oregon Accreditation Alliance. So that was cool to see that bloom, and it really took off quick. I mean, Lane Roberts was the first one at Redmond to be accredited, and then Grants Pass, I think, was next. And so people really grabbed it and ran with it, and so it was pretty cool to see all the work those guys had done 2 or 3 years beforehand, and then there we got to say it's official, go forth and do good, and they did. Everybody did.
OACP has an awful lot of things that we can learn from, but the chiefs have to learn to take advantage of that. We see a lot of chiefs that they show up at the first day of the conferences, they're there for a little while, and they go off, and we never see them again. And everybody needs to learn to, go to the classes, and sometimes even more importantly is to make sure you attend the BS sessions in the evenings. There are many times that the BS sessions you learn more from than the classes we have.
The association wanted to provide training opportunities, hopefully around the state, different locations, to try to fill the need for some of the Eastern Oregon folks, the Southern Oregon folks, and that in management and supervisory training. Either at the time or shortly thereafter, DPSST didn't get the funding that they needed or desired. So there was an impact to supervisory and management training away from the academy. They used to have, we call him a range rider. He would go out and provide training around the state. And that program was severely impacted during that general time frame. So we were trying to find a way to help raise a little revenue for the association, if it'd be through training, and that's fine. And we were trying to fill the gap left by DPSST to some extent and provide training in supervisory and management in areas that didn't do it easily before. If you're in the Salem area, you have the academy right there. It was easy to send somebody there, but the Eastern folks didn't have that.
Do I have a special memory of my time as president? And yes, I do, and it's very unpleasant. During my time as president, I had to present the Medal of Ultimate Sacrifice to the family of Captain Tom Tennant of Woodburn Police Department who was killed in the bomb blast at the Woodburn bank robbery, of which we also had 2 other officers injured. That is something that has stuck with me for ever since. I would sincerely hope that no other chief has to ever do that again, but I do realize it will happen. And aside from that, I just felt honored that I was chosen by the membership of the OACP to serve as their president.
One of the memories I have as president was I really enjoyed, because I got to work with chiefs that I've never worked with before. I'd been on the board and all of that for a number of years, but somehow as the president I was able to meet and just hear from more chiefs than I'd probably ever heard of before. And that was really cool because I got to learn a lot about about their departments and how they operate. And we're all always complaining about cut budgets, and so it was neat to hear from more people about how they get around some of these things and still get the job done. So
A shout out to people that helped me as my time as president. Number 1 would be my wife, Vicki. She's stuck with me through 42 years of law enforcement, and I couldn't have done it without her.
Okay, as far as shout outs or thank yous for the help I got while I was president, then it'd be a really long list. But I'd have to say Bob Tardiff, Steve Weiniger, Les Youngbar, and John Courtney.
Others that helped me out would have been some of the old timers: Jim Harper, Mark Adams, Vern Wells, Stu Roberts. There's just too many to even name, and they probably didn't even know they were helping me out. But there are certain people you know that when they open their mouth and start talking, you should be listening.
As encouragement for new chiefs or folks that are about to be chiefs, I would say look for opportunities for leadership. It doesn't always have to be formal leadership. I mean, a patrol, the most brand new patrol officer can find leadership opportunities. So find those and make use of them.
Always be looking for the new chief, and that's going to be the guy that's standing in the corner. When I first became a member of this organization at my first conference, I was standing in the corner saying to myself, what am I even doing in the same room with the rest of these people? And then I had people like Mark Adams, Jim Harper, Vern Wells, and others pull me out of that corner and get me involved. And that's what everybody needs to be looking. All the time, you have to be looking for that guy that's standing in the corner.
Don't be afraid to step up and say, I volunteer, I'll try it. That's one where I have to really work on to step out of my shell. I'm a behind the scenes type of guy. I would much rather lead behind the scenes. And some guys are real type A. So whatever your type, just find the opportunities that work for you, but take the opportunity. So, and patience, listen. So.
Another word of encouragement for new chiefs is to always keep track of yourself. I didn't think that I had much stress, but after retiring from being a chief for 20 years, I very quickly lost 20 pounds. And I can only attribute that to not working anymore and realizing throughout the years, I always thought that I didn't have much stress, but when I was done, I saw it. And you need to, as a new chief, be trying to find out another way to figure out if you're thinking that also. Thinking, I don't have stress, this is a breeze. Well, being a chief of police is not a breeze. It might be fun, but it's not easy. And you need to figure out a way to have somebody watching and telling you. I remember our chaplain in our department used to always come into my office just to take my temperature and see how things were going. And he would occasionally say something, but I still thought I was doing fine. My wife, would occasionally say something, but when I finally retired, I realized there were times when I wasn't fine. And I don't know how anybody else would be able to track that to themselves, but it's something you do need to take into consideration.